So is it Razion or Razion? Let's go with Razion. Okay, so this is Razion EX on the Switch, playing it on normal and going for 1cc in this. So for those that don't know, a 1cc means that I cannot use any continues. I only have the lives that are given to me, so I need to be a little bit careful as this giant ship sweeps past in the background. So this was originally a Neo Geo homebrew title in 2014, I think. Came out in May 2021. Here is a space croissant, the first of the mini bosses. I'm going to need to be a little bit careful here to see if I'm still awake. Some little bit tight dodging. I have my beam if I need to, but nope. Clearly I'm not. So it's a homebrew released in May 2021, and it's getting a digital release in September 2021. So to celebrate that a little bit, here's another 1cc run with all the patches in place and hopefully everything fixed. And since it's only stage 1, it means I can talk a little bit. There's a bit of tight dodging as I weave through the ones at the top and the ones at the bottom. The tanks in particular cause a little bit of difficulty, but I always have that beam in case I need it. So the second mini boss is coming right up. Look at the scaling power of the Neo Geo. Here is our Gundam friend, so I'm just going to nestle under his arm. There will be some enemies going underneath and the tank, but it should be done in good timing, and there we go. Dealing with the turrets at the top, the little tank things at the bottom, and now we're going to get into more weaving in between these bullets. So you may look at this and think Neo Geo horizontal 2D shooter, is it a bit like Blazing Star? And there are certainly some similarities. This game comes from NGDev, who have not only made other Neo Geo homebrew titles, but also some Dreamcast ones as well. So anyone on the Dreamcast homebrew scene may be familiar with a game called Ducks, and you'll notice some similarities between this and what we're seeing right now. So this is a little bit like if Ducks was made on a Neo Geo. And in stage 1, we are now coming to one of the only two, unfortunately, dynamic sections in terms of level design, these platforms which are raising and going down, causing a little bit of difficulty in movement. It's not impeding the enemies in any way whatsoever, but it's sadly not much of a challenge, and in terms of those dynamic elements and level design, there's not much you're going to get in this game. It really is just a case of scrolling from left to right with some buildings in the way. And for this, I'm having to be a little bit careful to position myself through that. So you'll notice the beam, it turns the cubes green or blue, and that is freezing them in place. In terms of the scoring for that, it is best to collect a bunch of yellow cubes and then freeze them. But here we come to the first boss, and like a lot of the bosses, and you'll notice from Ducks as well, they are just dynamic walls. So I make my way to the bottom, and I want to take care of these missiles that come out, because those 3 shots are going to repeat in a little while, and I want to make sure that the area is clear. There we go. It's a little bit difficult if I have all these pink shots in the way. That phase is done. Final phase, giant missiles coming at me, more pink shots. But there we go. And that little beep there, that means I got an extra life, 30 million for normal, 80 million for Maniac, 15 million for Novice. And there was, of course, some Space Anime booty. Second level is where it starts to get a little bit interesting, and this is where the game tries to teach you to use the beam. So I used the beam at the bottom because the scenery was in the way. In normal, your missiles cannot go through the scenery. Not the case in Maniac, they can go, but there we go. So you would have noticed, the eagle-eyed viewers, that my score went red temporarily. That is the ranking system in place. If it goes red, then enemies get slightly different attack patterns, so there'll be more suicide bullets, and some of the shots will be a little bit faster. But a way in which you can manage rank in this, not something I'm actively trying to do, it just so happens because it's the best way to score, is to actively use the beam. So if you do find yourself on the red and find it a little bit difficult, use the beam as much as possible to get those kills in, and then it'll go back. But it's not an on-off thing, so I can have that green score and some of the enemies still get suicide bullets like the one just there. Now, it's not so much of a difficulty at the moment. We still are in stage 2. There are 6 stages in total. My score has gone red again, and we're coming up to the first mini-boss of this level. that I'm going to call the Squiggly Crab. I can't think of anything better to call it. So he's going to waddle from left to right and throw up a little bit. I deal with the enemies at the top, and then at the bottom, the squiggly bullets that track me up. Quite easy to dodge. They aren't fast-moving ones. That was a bit close. And unfortunately, because my bullets don't go easily through the scenery here, this takes a little bit longer. But the beam takes care of the rest. A little bit tight. But it's kind of a shame that the game rewards active beaming in terms of the scoring, because it certainly would be a more difficult, challenging game if it had no impact at all. But thankfully for that, there is a Maniac mode available to you, and that is a lot more fun, personally. But in terms of getting on a 1cc, this is obviously a lot easier. Now we're coming up to the second boss, and he's just going to spurt out. He's going to come up with the squiggly pink lines again, but they're going to act in tandem, and hopefully it'll be a case of just going through the middle of these, and because it's slow enough, then I may be easily able to dodge out of the way for those. Play around a bit, hopefully don't get a bit too cocky. Now for the second phase, I'm just going to try my best to ignore it all completely. He's going to vomit towards the top left hand corner of the screen. You're generally fine, but the most of my damage is going to be done on the third phase. So more squiggly lines, more pink bullets, and done. And the second extra life. So in terms of extra lives here, we're only allowed 3 extends. So for this, the moment I get to 90 million, that's it. I will have 5 extends, and getting up to 120 won't give me another one. Third stage here, we're kind of going into an industrial area from the bio phase that was reminiscent a little bit of R-Type. So this is teaching more about active use of the beam, and because of the amount of cubes that are being generated, it makes sense in this to just create a bunch of beams, create a bunch of cubes, freeze them, and then rush ahead, pick it up. If you pick up the cubes, then it recharges your beam shots. So it makes sense to get that quick beam off, rush to collect the cubes, and then you've got that beam readily available for you again. A little bit of gymnastics in terms of getting past all of these, but nothing too troublesome when we've got the beam at hand. And the best mini-boss of the game, we've got the T-800. So because I'm high rank, all of the missiles give suicide bullets. I need to be careful about the turrets at the top. For these homing bullets here, I'm going to track a little bit down to the bottom, swoop up, and then deal with the rest of them, but it's quickly done. We barely got any respite here, so there's going to be another quick wave of enemies here. There is my final extend, and the second mini-boss. Unfortunately, if you're high rank, it doesn't impact all of the attacks of the mini-bosses, so I have to dodge these in case he shoots me in the face. For the barrel, just weave my way through. There'll be a beam, which will have offshoots, and then you'll see that the scenery kind of gets in the way of visibility. It's a little bit problematic, but thankfully there's not too much going on in terms of to make it a true problem. You will get caught out from time to time. Now, the Tunnel of Love. I don't like to plug my old videos, but if you do want to see the video I made, Stage 1 to Stage 3 gameplay, and look how terribly I did in this section. So this is all about managing the top and the bottom and making sure that it is clear as possible. If it's not, you see the rate in which they're doing the bullets, it becomes a little bit problematic. So I have to just take care of the top and the bottom, and hopefully we should be fine. I forgot to take care of the little jumping flash there, but it's fine. And that is the last dynamic element in terms of escape. The water level went up. I don't know if the boss went through to it. So at this point, I need to talk a little bit about the changes of the game. So this is not just a Neo Geo ROM running an emulation. There are changes that have been made. You'll notice, first of all, for example, the frame rate is actually playable. But also, the aspect ratio is a little bit wider. It's not completely 16:9, but it's definitely an improvement on 4.3, and that has implications. And that is going to have an implication coming up in terms of the boss when you compare it to what the original game was. I have to be careful with the last one because the boss theme starts a little bit before, so I need to not use my beam so I can get that no beam bonus for the boss. So, the Scorpion guy. Because this is slightly wider, the tail actually attacks. Now, unfortunately, in terms of the patterns here, he's just going to repeat the same thing 3 times. It's just going to get a little bit slight variations and a little bit quicker. But yeah, in terms of, I wait for the attack, I go down a bit and the left a bit, and then wash, rinse, repeat. A green one, right? So we're near the end. And there we go, boss done. Beep for the no beam bonus, and more space anime booty. Very nicely dressed. Now we're going to underwater, and I love this theme tune. It kind of reminds me of water levels of Donkey Kong Country rather, but it's also the most dangerous of those levels. You'll notice there that the cubes all disappeared. That is because there is an additional mechanic where cubes can break. So you'll see after a while, some of them will begin to flash in and out, and if that gets left long enough, that breaks and it removes all the cubes on screen. Now, in terms of one of the differences between this and Maniac is if you kill certain enemies, their bullets disappear. If you kill them on Maniac, the bullets remain, making it a lot scarier in terms of the experience. But the main problem here are the little Darius-like ships that are going up at the top and the bottom, doing little pot shots here and there. It becomes a little bit difficult at times to manage, and the cube situation is not exactly perfect in terms of using the beam, bursting forward and then beaming again. But I must say, this is where most of my runs go to die, so in terms of that, it's going very well so far. This is another section where I can just beam, rush, beam. And the mini-boss of this level, which is, again, another unfortunate thing about not really penalising the use of the beam much, because using the beam and using this bullet vomit, it's really quite difficult, quite easy to manage all of this in an effective manner. Wait until enough fills the screen, that will coincide with your beam refilling, and then you just get rid of those. So go down to the bottom, and then we start with the homing plasma balls. So if I just go down a little bit, then there should be a gap which will open up. Usually it takes about 3 beams, but I want to make sure that I got the beam filled for the next bit. So I'm going to try and just dodge a little bit here, go back up, and for some reason I beam anyway. But it's okay because we're low rank at the moment. I suppose it's very easy to actually get from high rank to low rank, which is completely opposite to most other shmups you may have played. For this one, for this section, again, beam forward, beam again. There are little enemies scurrying along the bottom of the seabed that you can't quite manage in this difficulty level with your rockets, so you just use the beam for those. And the last one, exploding bio-missiles. And we're coming out to the last stretch. More cube collection, and there we go, boss number 4. Now keep in mind, this boss, he's going to make a return later. Lots of micro movements here. So a little bit down, a little bit up, a little bit down again, a little bit up. And now for the second phase, same thing again. It gets a lot scarier later on, I promise you. Now in terms of the game being slightly wider, if you just hang at the back, then nothing's going to touch you. So we ignore that completely. For this one, I usually go 2 down, then go up, and then that should avoid it. The plasma balls come straight at me. There should be a little bit gap. Go back down, and there we go. I feel like it'd be more dangerous if it went on for longer. Even on Maniac, it's only going to go on for another 2 seconds, so it's not really worth discussing. Sorry, I had to shut up for a moment there because that music was so epic. The best thing about this game has to be the music, and this track is fantastic. What a way to get you pumped up for that. And between this and stage 4 as to what is the most difficult stage of this game. There is a lot going on here. You've got the whirligig saws at the top. You've got this guy is not so difficult, but you've got the what is this? This is like we're spraying a hose to water a yard. So much going on, and it's even worse if we're getting on a high rank, but thankfully the game is being very kind to us. There are a few opportunities to use our beam to collect the cubes, but I find it very difficult to score on this stage personally. In terms of what my overall score would be and how to improve it, it would be on this one right here. So there are two types of shot. There is a shot which slows down your movement speed and one which makes it fast. So I'm using the fast one here. You'll be able to tell the difference because the slow movement speed will show your your hitbox. So it's when I've got a red center on my sprite. Yeah, it's a little bit close. I'm not liking this. And the asteroids are becoming more and more of a problem. So the asteroids not only block my shots, but also the enemies. It doesn't block the beam, thankfully. And now for the mini-boss. So I edge my way downwards, go back up. And if we just stick to the middle, there is a gap there. And thankfully the bullets go when he is destroyed. Again, it's not the case on Maniac. In Maniac, you would have had to dodge that. More maneuvering around the asteroids to make sure we get a good shot. Annoyingly placed green ship. So far this is going very well. Okay, so the bugs will come in. I'll use my beam and then go for the whirligig saw. Honestly, with... Okay, yep, had to have at least one stupid death, otherwise it was going so fantastically well so far. This can be a little bit problematic. Alright. And now for the boss. So this boss is going to be a little bit different in that it's not just one giant wall. It turns into something different. We can near enough stick to the middle during this attack. A little bit of movement and then some spirals to deal with, but as you can see there's a decent gap. Sometimes you can get caught out with it, and now we get the thing in the middle. But again, it's a little bit disappointing that there is this clear area where I'm safe. Bullets are splaying all over, but you just stay in the middle and it's fine. Now we're going to get some more spirals, but instead of moving from left to right, you move up and down. Which is kind of made up for in this last phase, where it's going to chuck asteroids and it's a little bit of RNG being thrown at you. So I'll go at the top and hope for the best. No, I've got some bad asteroid placement there, so I'm going to use my beam. And done. So you'll notice the jump in points for that is barely anything because I use my beam on there. That no beam bonus is significant. Now the final stage and mini boss rush. Starting with the space croissant. Forward through the first 3 attacks and then move backwards. Whirligig saws are going to come out of his mouth, but it's okay because the bullets are going to be destroyed when they are destroyed. A little bit of an attack and then we're done. One wave where it's going to be about effective use of the beam once again, and hope that none of the cubes break, and then we'll get on to the next mini boss in this rush. Here we have the vomit machine, and it's got a little bit... Okay, I'm dead, so more bullets being thrown at you. The position of it is a little bit random. Go through that, avoid the beam offshoots, and then hope he doesn't shoot in my face. Alright, 4 lives left, it should be doable. So another wave until the next mini boss. Hope that the cubes yet again hold out. There we go, Space Gundam's back. Oh, Space Gundam, of course Gundam's in space. Now for this one I'm going to have to sacrifice one side of the screen. It is too difficult a situation to be able to position myself back there. You have the 2 big ships in tandem. Thankfully they shoot at different times. I'm a bit slow with that, but it's done, and now the T-800 makes his grand return. So the missiles here, the revenge bullets are a lot bigger. So this time I want to stay up top because of the spiral that's going to come out here. There is a little bit of a gap, but when there isn't a gap, then I just beam my way through. All of the missiles leave behind cubes, therefore if I want to recharge, I have the means to do that there. And that's it in terms of the mini boss rush. So the most pointless wave, don't even need to, there we go, they automatically destroyed. They're now for the final boss, which is of course the same as stage 4 boss, but he looks slightly uglier and the bullets are a lot faster. So it's a bit tight to maneuver around there. Now we've got the pink bullets as well as the curved bullets here. Gets a bit ridiculous, and then there's a little one there. The vomit, there is less place to hide, but if you go to the far leftmost of the screen, it should be fine. Again, the same for this pattern, down, then swoop up, and hopefully you're avoiding the green bullets. I'd say this is easier, even though it's a bit of a tighter pattern, but there are less bullets being thrown at you. Weave through that. I had to use a beam and hope that you can weave through those spirals, because it's not always a given. How I managed to do that, I do not know. How I managed to do that twice, I do not know. I promise you I'm not Schlauky. And now we weave through the vomit. And we're done. 196 million points. Final space booty? No, of course not. So that was Razion EX on the Switch. As you can see from these credits, a very tiny team. So you have the Hellwig brothers taking care of mostly everything. And in terms of the music, thank you, Mr. Neumann. Brilliant stuff. And as part of the Switch release, we do get a little epilogue after we get through that. So the credits are just 2 pages. That shows the amount of budget that goes to this. So obviously, any support to go through this will go a long way. So here is the epilogue. The Dark Zeds, whoever they are now defeated. Look at all those booties. Don't they look happy? The ship has lifted off and goes off into the distance for new adventures, no doubt. 2 of the 3 characters are saying goodbye. Thank you for playing. You're more than welcome. But why only 2? Oh, we're dead. That's unfortunate. And all of that, and I'm only on 2nd place. So that was Razion EX on the Switch. It is available September 16th on the eShop. There will be a restock of the physical version some point in 2022. Good shmup. Probably worth the $20 they're asking for it. And here is the introduction in case people want to know how to play. Thank you very much, everybody, and goodbye.